Shaquiel is a young adult in recovery from schizophrenia and a trained young adult super advocate through Advocacy Unlimited.
Hi. Is it on? Hello? Can you hear me? All right. All right. Can you hear me now? All right. Hi, my name is Shaquiel Harris, and I am 22 years old, and I currently live in Hartford. I grew up in New Britain with my mom, but spent some time at my grandmother's in West Hartford for a few years. While growing up, I began noticing specific things about that maybe in hindsight were the beginning signs of some type of mental illness. For example, I had ritualistic tendencies throughout my childhood, and there was a disconnect between my mom and me. There were also challenges in my relationship with my younger brother and older sister. I was cooler with my brother than with my sister, but they definitely had a better relationship between each other. Not all experiences were negative growing up. Like, I played football and saxophone in 4th and 5th grade, and I had a few really good friends. I even went to Disney World 2 times during my childhood. Looking back, football was a great outlet for whatever I had bottled up inside. I had a passion for running and playing football. I also had a good relationship with my grandmother growing up, and I'm still connected to my dad. Growing up, I saw my dad every other weekend when it worked out. Things started going downhill just after I started middle school. At that time, I was unable to play football because of a surgery, and this is where my paranoid thinking began to emerge. I had confidence in running and overall physical health before the surgery, but after the surgery, I didn't feel as physically fit, and my self-image was negatively affected. I had dreams of becoming a pro athlete, but I felt like those dreams were crushed. I just wasn't the same. Psychologically, I was damaged as well. For example, I had lower self-confidence, became increasingly shy, and my self-image was also negatively impacted. No one knew what I was going through because I kept it all inside. Looking back, it would have been helpful if I had someone to talk to about my concerns related to the surgery. So in the end, all that turmoil was building within me, and to the point that I finally tried talking to my mom about it when I was 13. But she didn't understand what I was telling her, and she didn't really take it seriously. I realize now that no one had ever given her information about mental illness, so how could she have ever expected to understand? Eventually, towards the end of 7th grade, my bad choices and increasingly severe symptoms led to my first real episode. One day it was really bad. I was freaking out, doing weird things, and I started throwing things in the house and became aggressive. After trying to get through the night, my mom finally called 911. The police had me transported by ambulance to the New Britain Hospital, where I stayed through the night and into the next day, at which point I was sedated and brought to Holbrook Hospital in Westport, Connecticut. At Holbrook, I received inpatient services in their adolescent unit for about a month. While I was in the hospital, I was pretty depressed, and I was really hopeless. I was even homesick. Upon discharge, my care was transferred to CMHA in New Britain. At that point, I went back to school. I was part of the program called MAPS program through New Britain, which allowed me to skip 8th grade, so I went right from 7th grade into high school. The first year of high school, I didn't have someone I could call a true friend. I was too shy and easily intimidated by other people to reach out and start a conversation. After 2 years in New Britain High School, I transferred to Raymond Hill School, which is a school for DCF or children who need extra attention. I was a lot better at Raymond Hill School because there was a greater degree of acceptance between students, and the staff were more supportive to me as an individual. I established strong relationships with some key staff members. I was also actively involved in theater and sports. Getting back to organized sports, even though they weren't that competitive at Raymond Hill, was helpful for me. It is important to note that in my second year in New Britain High School, I participated in indoor track and outdoor track. At that time, I began making connection between eating healthy and my energy and performance. During that time at New Britain High School, despite complying with my medication, I acted aggressively towards another student in the 10th grade. This incident ended up leading me towards my search for God. I was already conscious of God, but I realized that I needed to accept and consciously seek God. Spirituality has been a big part of recovery ever since that day. The summer after I finished high school, I ended up leaving my mom's house to move in with my dad. At that point, my services were transferred to Mount Sinai in Hartford. When I was living with my dad, we worked on getting things in order so I could start school. This included all the paperwork. I ended up changing my name to my dad's last name. Overall, things were better because we related more to each other. My dad showed a genuine interest in me as a son. Unfortunately, I was hospitalized after a month of college, and I ended up having to drop out. At that time, I didn't think I was supposed to be hospitalized, and maybe that person I was seeing at the time overreacted to what I was disclosing. At that point, I ended up transferring to Young Adult Services at the IOL. At that point, I connected with young people who were going through similar experiences. After completing the Young Adult program, I was transferred to the Schizophrenia Rehabilitation Program, also at the IOL. About 2 years in the Schizophrenia Rehabilitation Program, I was feeling distraught because my symptoms were getting worse. It felt like things were really not working out for me. I was really at the breaking point. For about a year after that, I was bounced around through living situations. Providers finally ended up connecting with the Capital Region Young Adult Program. I'm now living in the Todd House at the IOL. I would say that I am currently in transition. I recognize that there are important factors I can incorporate into my daily lifestyle which support my recovery and overall wellness. These include the gym at the YMCA on Trumbull Street in downtown Hartford, softball at Chrysalis, basketball through Capital Region. I also listen to a lot of music across several genres. When I listen to music, I allow it to motivate, inspire, and comfort me. I also read a lot of material through the internet and paperback books. I tend to read books that are self-help, self-awareness, and spiritual. As I reflected earlier, spirituality is also a big part of my overall recovery and wellness. Through my church, I have acquired a loving spiritual family and a strong social network. Church offers activities and opportunities that fill up my days and keep me close to God. This fulfillment is vital to my turning point. I also write poetry, and I plan on taking classes in the spring at the local community college. I also connect with positive alternatives like art and yoga through Toivo by Advocacy Unlimited. To close, I am here to speak to you about why I believe that Turning Point CT is an important resource for young adults who experience mental health challenges. I believe that this website is very valuable because it provides a place where young adults can find real-life examples of other young people who achieved recovery and how they deal with difficulties. Even people who aren't dealing with these issues can still gain awareness and appreciation for those who might be struggling. I believe that this website was available for either me. I believe that if this website was available for either me or my family, then maybe a lot of the issues I had to deal with somewhat on my own could have been avoided. So as I sit here today, sharing my struggles and triumphs, opening my heart and telling my story, I hope that you will listen, that you will take the time, take the lesson learned from the experience, and be open to others who may be dealing with similar issues. I hope that you will take the time to understand what they are going through and then offer guidance towards resources like Turning Point CT.